So the second big finding, or the second sub-finding in the first big finding, vulnerability as emotional knowledge for healing, was vulnerability as a practice of truth-telling. And shout out to our sister Bell Hooks and Sisters of the Yam, and really talking about black women and self-recovery, and really talk about truth-telling as a practice for healing. But when we did our evaluation, which was had about 8 questions. The first question was a Likert scale on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 meaning it wasn't good and 5 meaning it was excellent. How did you rate our circle? And we collected data for like the first 30, 35 circles, and we got about 142 responses. And nobody rated our circle lower than a 3. So we got 7 people, 4.9% rated at a 3. We have 33 people, or 23%, rated at a 4, saying that it was kind of good. And then we had 102 people, which was 72%, who rated it a 5, who said it was excellent. So we learned that in the circle process, that one part of the healing is the facilitation itself, and the pedagogy itself, and how you hold space and how you create that space of vulnerability, and also receiving the feedback from community around what could make the space more healing, and how you could heal yourself, and what could make their connection to the space more safer and braver. When we asked participants what they experienced, they commented and said that the reason why they gave us 4s and 5s and some 3s was they said because the energy of H.O.L.L.A and YLC. They said they sincerely appreciate YLC energy. YLC created a source of community even amongst a group of strangers. They said they loved the positivity and support of us. They said it was fun. They said our authenticity allowed for their conversation with their partner to be more authentic and more nuanced. They said we have such a loving and comfortable environment. They said they felt safe and seen there in the circle we created. They said we helped create good vibes and it got deep. Thanks for helping. They said we facilitated wonderful. They said what we do is extremely important, keep it up. They said our energy was funny and welcome. They said I love the passion and enthusiasm of H.O.L.L.A. Thank you, God bless. They said the interactions, the originality was done very well. I can tell a lot of hard work went into the circle. You seem very prepared, thank you. So that was some of the feedback we received. Bell Hooks also says that, reading from Sisters of the Yam, Hooks' theorizations of a system of lies remind readers to consider the importance of speaking truth to power and to each other. Bell argues that ideologies and systems such as settler colonialism, heteropatriarchy, white supremacy, chattel enslavement have relied upon the structure of deceit to perpetuate degrading stereotypes, disenfranchisement, surveillance, and exclusion of Black, brown, and indigenous people, particularly women, from mainstream resources and political power. Many individuals and communities impacted by this very culture of domination internalize those lies and adopt them as our own strategy for survival. Hook argues today it's critical to understand that lies hurt. And although lying was a useful strategy in the past or gives us an advantage in one area, lies often undo or prohibit the process of healing in other areas. So Bell Hook is telling us that, we might have lied back in the days, to survive ourselves, to get through slavery, to make it through certain moments. Thinking about our history in certain political times. But she said, we also got to figure out, when does lying and really embracing the system lies that's a violence to even map onto you, but to even embrace and embody their lie is another violence that happens to you. She says, when do we stop embracing those systems of lie, understanding that they hurt us, and stop our growth? She goes on, truth telling is a vital part of Black people's resistance. Not, I'm just going off that energy. She don't go on, just going off that energy. I keep going. Truth telling is a vital part of Black people's resistance, ethnic survival, and healing. How one tells their truth is just as important. Below, I share participants' expressions and feedback to help strengthen our Healing Justice Movement Circle process. Although most youth enjoyed the Healing Justice Movement Circle process, there was still critical feedback. So although people gave us 5s and 4s and nobody went under a 3, we still got some really critical feedback how to make it better. So we heard, I love the message and purpose of the organization. The circle was good, but organizing amongst H.O.L.A could be a little bit better, which will improve the circle you do. We heard time management. We heard too many questions in the introduction part. Too long. Maybe less questions, more time to think. I think starting off with a concise intro would be helpful. So people gave us feedback on our intro. Some people liked it, some people thought it was way too long. We used participants' critical feedback to revise our Healing Justice Youth Community Assessment and Circle process as well. Suggestions for our assessment and survey after young people took it hit on topics like this. Maybe make it easier for people with lower literacy. Additional questions asked, who do you feel most supported by if youth could heal the community? If so, how would you do that? They want us to ask more questions. And to self-reflect on the experience of taking the assessment, what we gained from it. So they want us to ask, what did people gain from taking the survey? We receive advice on how to make some questions more relatable. The prompt has to be clearer about how often you see the struggle, because I didn't understand that. So this is some of the feedback we got on the survey too. Our big sister and scholar and educator, Janice Ward, argues that critical consciousness and community-specific strategies for healing in Black communities are shared in moments of intimacy. Let me read that again. Ward argues that critical consciousness, like how you develop ideas about history, about politics, about life, about culture, that leads to action and practice, and community-specific strategies for healing in Black communities are shared in moments of intimacy. Let's further go on. Sabufu Simone and the Spirit of Intimacy, Ancient African Teachings and the Ways of Relationships. Sabufu Simone argues outside of ritual, nothing can be truly intimate. So Ward says that critical consciousness and healing happens in intimacy. And then Simone said that outside of ritual, nothing is intimate. Further, I go on. Within the circle process, we experience many intimate moments. During those times where we learn about developing, and this is what people gave us feedback on, a consent culture, especially since a lot of folks need healing from sexual violence. So when we go into intimate spaces, like we probably need to get more consent when we can assume people experience sexual violence. And we heard feedback on how to make the circle a lot safer / braver. Some people said sharing with my partner, not enough time of building relationships before we started sharing. So while most people love the sharing and talking with new people, some people had some hesitations. So that just let us know about the different walks and empathy and journeys that our people come to the conversation with, and how to carry that with us as we build our circles going forward. We also heard, I think, I just letting people feel like they will benefit from all aspects but are welcome to opt out can help people feel more empowered to speak. So if people know that they could opt out of whatever part of the conversation at any part of the circle process, will probably just give people more power to be like, cool, I can speak, but I know I can opt out if I want to. Good feedback. I think more outlets for a statement from point to the circle process because lack of feeling safe, similar to what we just said there. So that was some of the feedback that we got directly from people around our circle process. Let's read some more. Sharing and receiving critical feedback with people in the community you struggle with is a vulnerable exchange. An exchange to enhance relational transformation and healing. One of the central findings of the Healing Justice Movement Circle process analysis is that vulnerability allows space to share truth with youth of color impacted by the problem of violence, particularly the historical, structural, and interpersonal problem. Vulnerability in itself was a sacred place of meeting. Similar to Dr. Farima's notion of cultivating a sacred space for collective healing and soul care, in our circle process, we was able to co-create reciprocity of vulnerability that aided collective healing for urban youth development. A reciprocity of vulnerability. Our circle process connected directly to our larger goal of building a grassroots movement centered on the basis of healing and justice. Shout out to Black Lives Matter. Shout out to Urban Peace Movement, to Courage, to the Kendra Southern Healing Justice Collective, and Cara Page. So the second finding that we're going to talk about is the Healing Justice Summit and how those individual circles, the relationships that we had, our legacy would stand on, the work that was already going on, particularly in the national context around healing justice, was able to be channeled in the Healing Justice Summit, and how we talk about how that had lessons about how you build the healing justice movement. Peace.